on in. Come on in. Oh, I got something for y'all. I got something. I have something real exciting for you. You want to see this. You want to hear this. I'm George Jackson, and boy, do I have something for you. Listen, I'm going to take you through Luke chapter 5, 3/4 of Luke chapter 5. There are 39 verses in it. I want to take you through verse 1 to verse 29. And taking you through these 3/4 of the whole, I want to show you something that is so powerful. This passage stands out as one of the most prolific motif that I have ever come across. It's probably one of my favorites. And it's a panoramic caption of a synergized concept. A panoramic concept of a synergized concept. And what you will find in Luke chapter 5 is amazing. Just simply amazing. It's the dominant idea in the artistry of Luke's discourse in literature. All right? It's just fine art. Luke just gets in, and boy, he is cutting this thing like a knife through butter. So I want to take you through it. Luke chapter 5 and verse 1 through 29. I'm not going to read it in the interest of time. I'm going to capture it in a nutshell. So what is happening here is there are some occasions that's taking place. Peter, number 1, catches a draught of fish. Number 2, a leper gets cleansed. Number 3, the crippled man comes down the roof, is healed, and he walks away. And number 4, Matthew is called from the receipt of custom. I want to use for a theme, for the idea, for the construct of the whole idea. I want to use a theme entitled "Don't Leave the Way You Came." And I want you to see how I arrived at the theme, because the theme is in the text. The theme is in the text. So gather around, all you preachers, gather around. Let me show you this. It's happening in the early ministry of Jesus. Peter is about to catch a draught of fish. The leper is going to be cleansed. The crippled man is going to be healed. And Levi, Matthew, is going to be called. But I want you to pay attention that it's happening in the early ministry where Jesus establishes the business of his Father. He establishes the business of his Father. When he told his mother, "Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's business?" This is the prime peak moment of the execution of the premiere of him executing his Father's business, which is dying. So the performance of miracles is the pleasure of the business. Him healing the sick, raising the dead, causing blinded eyes to see, whatever the miracle it was, turning water into wine as evidence of his power. These were the pleasures of his Father's business. When you get down to his Father's business, now you're talking about him dying. So at this point, bar mitzvah is done. He's past 12 years old. He's now entering into the last quarter of his existence on earth. He's about to die, but he's going to take 3 years plus to exhibit that I'm about my Father's business. Now I want you to watch this. I'm going to take you through Luke 5, and 3/4 of Luke 5 is a profound piece, a powerful, the Magnificat of this is just stupendous. Watch this. In verse 12, let me start from the get-go, like I did say. The dominant theme and idea is written in the artistry of Luke. It's happening early in the ministry of Jesus, because he's establishing that, look, man, I'm the guy. I'm the one. I'm the Messiah. I'm who you really need to pay attention to. So in the first quarter, you're going to find the idea, remember now, don't leave the way you came. Peter is fishing, and he's fishing with nothing. He's trying to catch something with nothing but a net. So he has nothing in the net. He brings nothing but a net and time. That time extends itself throughout a whole night, and he catches nothing. But what Jesus is going to do, he's going to see to it that Peter goes home, and he doesn't go home the way he came. He came fishless, but I'm going to see to it that you go home with an abundance of fish. You're not going home the way you came. So now the miracle performed is that Peter is going to go home, and he's not going to go home the way he came. So now I want you to understand this. That's what is happening here now, is Jesus is establishing in their lives, and they're not noticing it. We've read it for years and didn't notice it. He's establishing in their lives the idea that wherever I show up, things change. Whenever I show up, things turn. Because when I show up, impact is made and change is brought about. All right? So now the miracle is done. Peter catches all this draught of fish, shares it with his associates, and he goes home, not going home the way he came. All right? In verse 12, the event changes. I want you to pay attention now. There's a change in verse 12. Read from verse 1 through to verse 11. But when you get to verse 12, I just laid out the basic fundamental idea of the first quarter, that Peter catches fish having no fish. And it's not like the boy who came with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, and then Jesus added to the 5 loaves and the fish. All right? He's going to get fish out of nothing, out of nowhere. No bait, just net. In fact, I'm going to give you so much fish, your net is going to break. You're not going home the way you came. You came with a whole net, a wholesome net. You're going home with a broken net. Why? Because the blessing is going to be so vast, so humongous, so large, so big. Man. All right. Now, in verse 12, the event changes. But what's interesting is that it defines a different time, a different place, and a different day. Notice in verse 12 what happens. This was a different day. So what happens now is Jesus disconnects the event that is about to take place from the last event. And this is why you missed it. This is why we missed it for years. We don't see the motif in its panoramic view. We miss the motif because in its panoramic view there is a disconnect. In verse 12, the leper comes, and the disconnect from the content of the sea, the leper is cleansed, and you don't see the connection. Because this is a leper who needs healing, and he needs to go home without going home the way he came. So he came leprous, but he's going home whole. Did you see that? Follow me. I don't want to lose you. Peter caught the fish. He caught the school of fish, and he goes home with fish he never came with. The leper came with leprosy and went home without the leprosy he came with. I just showed you 2 themes, because the theme here is don't leave the way you came. So Peter came empty net, went home blessing even his friends. The leper came leprous and went home healed. 2 things that bears one common thread. Peter will not go home the way he came. The leper will not go home the way he came. But watch the artistry of Luke. Oh my God. In verse 17, Luke does it again. He changes the location in another city. The man on the bed arrives. So notice now, we were on the shores with Peter, catching fish he never had, went home the way he never came, empty-handed. He went home loaded. The leper is cleansed, came leprous, but left wholesome. Now in 17, the man brings this man, yes, who's crippled. All right? The man on the bed is tantamount to the whole 3/4 of the text, the passage. Why is he tantamount? Because he becomes the paratext of the whole. And remember now, I'm going to show you Matthew after this. But I want you to keep in mind, Peter, who caught fish, the leper that was cleansed. Now we have the man coming down the roof to be healed. And again, he becomes the paratext of the text, for he is associated to the whole text, but he's distinct in the text. You didn't get that. All right. He's associated. He's the paratext because he's associated to the whole text, but he is distinct to the text. I'm going to break that down. Watch this now. I told you this thing is powerful. Watch this now. Peter catches fish that he didn't put out there. He went home not the way he came, because he came empty-handed, but went home loaded. The leper came leprous and went home whole. Now the paratext of the whole, and remember, I haven't told you about Levi yet. What Luke is going to do with the artistry of his literature and the profundity of his presentation, he's going to use the man crippled as the paratext of the text. All right? He's associated to the whole because it's one thread. It's one thread. Don't leave the way you came. It's one single thread, multiple stories. So we have multiplicities of stories, but one thread going through, as if it was a needle with a thread going through the one needle eye. That one thread is, don't leave the way you came. But watch this. Watch what Luke does with the paratext of the text, which is associated to all the scriptures, but it is distinct in all the scriptures. His bed brought him in, but he brought his bed out. All right. So the first thing that happened is he approached from the back of the line, ended up on the roof, came down. I'm coming back to that. Watch this. And then he came in crippled but left walking. Are you following me? He came in the roof but walked out the door. Now notice, don't leave the way you came. Upon approach to the property, there was a crowd that they couldn't handle. And so the crowd places him at the back of the line. He goes to the roof, is let down by his friend, and now he's healed. His bed doesn't carry him anymore. Paratext, tantamount, incredible plot. My God, Luke, your artistry is profound. It comes with the profundity of a writer. Oh my God, watch what Luke does. He comes in at the back of the line, goes to the roof, comes down the roof, is healed, picks up the bed that once carried him, because I'm not leaving the way I came. My bed brought me in. I'm going out with my bed. And by the way, I came in the roof. I'm not leaving up the roof. I'm leaving out the door. The door I couldn't leave out when I first approached. And the people I now see are at the front of the line who were at the back of the line. And I can tell y'all, go on in and get yours, because I just got mine, because I'm not leaving the way I came. And this is what makes this particular text the paratext, because now it is shooting off extended thoughts to bring about the concrete thought of that thread that denotes don't leave the way you came. Pay attention to the lesson. In 27, Levi at the seat of custom, Jesus comes to him, and he leaves as a disciple, though he had arrived at work as a tax collector. He came to work as a tax collector, but he left as a disciple. What I just showed you is that strong through the entirety of the text, 3/4 of Luke chapter 5, denotes that don't leave the way you came, and it is strong through. Jesus is the standard here by which all these events gains status. He's the standard. In other words, Jesus brings cohesion to every event. Yes? He combines multiple events into a synergy of concepts. These passages are not about Peter, it's not about the leper, it's not about the crippled man, and it's not about Levi. It's actually about Jesus, because anybody who can go from one moment, one event, to another city in another day and bring about the same thread that you brought about over here by the sea, you're not going home the way you came. And then come over here on another day in another city in a different event and say you're not going home the way you came. Then sitting by himself, not approaching anybody, but being approached by the crippled man, you're not going home the way you came. Then he gets up and he goes to the receipt of custom and he tells Matthew, you are not going home the way you came. So now what these passages are doing is to bring to our cognizance, it is bringing to our understanding that it is Jesus. When he shows up, nobody leaves the way they came. Now, I want you to see that the central theme here is not Peter. You have been mesmerized by the miracle of the draught of fish for years. You have been mesmerized by the leper being cleansed. You've been mesmerized by the man coming down the roof who leaves out the door. And you've been mesmerized by the call of Matthew, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. But what we have missed is that the central theme of all these stories is that wherever Jesus shows up, nobody leaves the way they came. And so now, whether we announce his name, whether we announce his blood, which is idiom blood, that's a whole nother lesson, whether we announce his blood, his name, or the Holy Spirit, when he shows up, nobody leaves the way we came. Nobody. Now we can shout on that, we can holler on that, we can make a fine conclusion on that. We can do anything with it. We can buck dance on it. We can do whatever you want to do. I got the message out. 3/4 of Luke chapter 5 is about when Jesus shows up. Nobody leaves the way they came. And that's what I wanted you to see, the profundity of the artistry in the writing of Luke the apostle. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that beautiful? That is so powerful. Don't leave the way you came. I'm Pastor Jackson. Now go and have a blessed mind. Yes, have you a blessed mind.